Hello everyone, welcome back to Tech Quality's latest video. I recently received a call on a MSI laptop, had a broken LCD screen. As you can see in the title, I do not remember what the model was of this laptop. If anybody remembers, feel free to leave a comment on what exact MSI model this is. So that was my bad. I usually try to get the model number before I create a video. But I thought I'd post this video because it gives a little insight as to what you can run into at any given moment. As you can see here, I showed up at the customer's house. I didn't have the ideal working space. We had dogs walking around in the background, so you just had to deal with the cards you're dealt, right? So this particular model, he purchased a LCD online himself. He did not purchase a bezel replacement. So I am attempting, as you can see here, to remove the bezel without breaking it. I ended up using a couple of my spudger tools, flat-headed spudger tools, to try and go up behind the bezel. I found an opening down by the left hinge, and I was able to kind of just move the spudger along and break the adhesive stick. You can see the dog came in to say hello there. I had to push him away. So I'm making progress around here up towards the top of the LCD. Speed the video up here in a second just to get through this part, but it's kind of the same process all the way around the frame of the bezel. Keeping the spudger flat, using your fingers to kind of separate and pry it away carefully so that you don't kink or break the bezel if you have to reuse it. My recommendation is always to, buy a replacement bezel. A lot of bezels come off without a problem, but some of them are just so horrible taking off that oftentimes they'll kink or they'll break, or the adhesive is so worn out it doesn't stick back on very well. The clips sometimes break off, so you're kind of a double whammy there, and when you go to put it back on, it doesn't come off all the way. So you can see right here I'm working around towards the bottom edge, trying to get a good solid. And I think what I ran into here is the adhesive was so stuck to the plastic along the bottom of the LCD. I really had to get in there and separate it with that spudger tool. Alright, so I finally make the break there. The bezel is still in good shape. I was able to set that aside, and now I'm observing and saying, okay, not really familiar with this particular MSI model, so I take the new LCD out of the wrap, I look at it, I compare it, I'm looking at the size to make sure it's the right size, and to see if the new one had any kind of clips or framing going around. A lot of Dell laptops will have, I love Dell's LCDs, at least the ones without adhesive behind, but what we're running into here is this one I'm finding is stuck with a couple of adhesive strips on the back of the LCD. Really tough to break. Some models will have a little slip hanging out the bottom of the LCD where you can grab it with your screwdriver and you start pulling it out an inch or two at a time, and you twirl it up on your screwdriver, you pull, twirl it, pull, twirl it. This wasn't the case. This adhesive was running in a horizontal fashion, one across the top and one across the bottom. And so what I'm doing here is I'm taking that flat spudger tool. I'm not too concerned about the old LCD. It's already broken, right? So if I snap it or create more damage to it, it's no loss, right, as we're replacing it with the new LCD. So I'm kind of using some of my tools and trying to find a way, right? I put one spudger in to keep it separated, and then another plastic spudger to kind of try to get back there up against the adhesive. You see I removed a couple of screws there. Those didn't do anything. I didn't know if maybe those were holding on to something, but they weren't. So I'm working at the bottom strip there, and as I was working across it, eventually I heard a snap, like I broke the last piece of stick on the top edge there. So I was able to free up the top part of the LCD. Now I got to get down to the bottom. And this particular model, you can't see what I'm doing there, but there's a frame that runs vertical along the left and right edges of this LCD. I don't care for this design at all. It was kind of a pain in the rear end trying to get it out. And so here I got a pretty good angle. You can see where I'm reaching down with that metal spudger tool and trying to slide it across and break the adhesive that's across the horizontally across the bottom. And while I'm working on that, if you find this video helpful at all, I sure would appreciate it if you'd subscribe to my page. Tech Qualities is the name, and we'll be posting several videos like these, instructional videos on how to repair various different types of laptops and desktops. And there we can see I was able to break. You can see the adhesive strip across the bottom, and there's one across the top. And there's still a lot of adhesive left behind, so when we go to put the new LCD in, it should stick to that with no problem. Here I'm removing the tape over the cover of the LCD or EDP cable that connects to the back of the LCD. It's got a little clip that flips up, and you can use I like to use a small non-conductive screwdriver head to kind of pull back on that and disconnect that cable. So out with the old, now we're going to come in with the new. And the challenge with this one is, of course, we had those frames. You can see the frame on the left side there is out. On the right side, it's still there. The left side, in the process of me removing the LCD, that left side was just loose and it came right out. So I'm putting in the new, putting the connection back in, the same cable, same connection. I use that same clip once I get it. Once you learn how to connect these connectors, they become easier over time. It might be a challenge in the beginning, but work with it. You want to kind of slide it in and then use your screwdriver to grab that little bracket and pull it flush into the connector, and then just use the same adhesive tape to fold down over that connector. So here I'm putting the frame that came out back in place. If you wanted, you could use a little super glue. If you had some super glue handy, try to put that frame back in place. I didn't have any such tools with me, so I really couldn't predict what was going to happen on this job. But once I got the LCD into place, it held that frame into place nicely. So what I'm doing is I'm putting it into place where it was previously. I do a quick power on to make sure that my connection is good and that the LCD is working. And that's a good sign. I get a display, so I know my cable connector on the back is good. Once I get my LCD into position, I'm putting those two screws back in that I didn't really need to remove to start with. Those were just some hinge screws that were sitting in there. I removed the protective film off the front of the screen before I put my bezel on. And I put the bezel back in place, I position it correctly, and I start to snap it back into place. Now these bezels oftentimes will have little clips on there, so those clips help to hold it in place, as well as the adhesive that they come with. So sometimes if you have to reuse a bezel, you're losing some adhesive, but there's still a lot of it still on. So I try to make sure that the adhesive isn't balled up or anything. It's going to cause the bezel to stick out in any one place. Just use the adhesive that's on there, coupled with the clips. Now here, as I'm putting pressure across the bottom, you can see I'm using my left hand across the back of the LCD back cover, and I'm pushing in as I put pressure on it because I don't want to bend the LCD and cause any damage. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Love having you. Please click on the Tech Qualities logo on the bottom right to subscribe. There will be a lot more informational videos coming in the days to come. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.